Iran wants to deal with us, but they don't know how. They really don't know how. We had a meeting with them on Saturday. We have another meeting scheduled next Saturday. I said, that's a long time. You know, that's a long time. So I think they might be tapping us along. But Iran has to get rid of the concept of a nuclear weapon. They cannot have a nuclear weapon. He can't have a nuclear weapon. Nobody can have. We can't have anybody having nuclear weapons, you know? We can't have nuclear weapons. And I think they're tapping us along because we're so used to dealing with stupid people in this country. And I had Iran perfect. You had no attacks. You would have never had October 7 in Israel, the attack by Hamas, because Iran was broke. It was stone cold broke when I was president.
President Trump with reporters yesterday in the Oval Office about Iran's nuclear ambitions. U.S. negotiators meeting with Iranian officials over the weekend on Saturday in Oman, with more talks scheduled in Italy this upcoming Saturday. Joining me now is Fox News senior strategic analyst and chairman of the Institute for the Study of War, General Jack Keane. General, always a pleasure. Thank you for being here. Can you assess what you heard from the Oman meeting and what you would expect from this upcoming Italy meeting on Saturday?
Yeah, well, I think my expectations are pretty low. Iran is summarily rejecting any thought of dismantling the program themselves. I mean, what they want to do is move back to what they would define as commercial civilian nuclear power enrichment program, which is low-grade enriched uranium. Back when we had the nuclear deal with the Obama administration is what they're really talking about. And Maria, that's a distinction now without a difference. In other words, civilian nuclear power and nuclear weapons. Because Iran has technology that has advanced, as well as their engineers. They have developed advanced centrifuges. They can make enriched uranium very rapidly. They're right now capable of producing 6 nuclear weapons within a number of weeks because they've already developed the enriched uranium to the levels needed for that weaponization. So we have to understand who Iran is today. And that's why that makes no sense to try to form that difference, because it isn't a difference. And listen, President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu have all the cards here. Iran is relatively defenseless against an attack. They know it. They haven't retaliated against Israel since the October attack, which was devastating on them. They removed their defenses and much of their rockets and missiles. We've got maximum sanctions hanging over their head here. Their economy is in the tank. If they don't want to dismantle their program and get sanction relief and be welcomed in as a legitimate country, if they're going to stop their malign behavior in the region, then we execute the ultimatum that President Trump has laid down in front of them. And that would be an Israeli-led, U.S.-supported attack. It's something the president doesn't want to do, but Iran looks like they're going to likely force his hand. That's kind of where we are, Maria.
So do you think that, in fact, they would pull the trigger, the Israelis, to decimate the Iranian buildup of nuclear weapons?
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, Prime Minister Netanyahu has said that, and President Trump has said it himself. So that is the ultimatum. The Iranians clearly understand that. And look, we know what they're going to do. They'll say, okay, we'll go back to those low-level restrictions. We'll remove centrifuges. We'll do this. We'll do that. And then what will happen? They'll go to a secret site and begin to rapidly enrich their uranium to weaponization. That's what they'll do. That's the reality of it. That's why they have to dismantle the program with independent inspectors that go anywhere, anytime, and do it by a date certain. Without that rigor there, Iran will eventually get a nuclear weapon. So we are where we are today, and I think we kind of expected Iran to do this. I think that's why the Ayatollah agreed to the negotiations. He was opposed initially because what does he want? He wants sanction relief. He wants Iranian assets that are frozen to stop being frozen. He can get that money back. That's what this is really all about for them.
What's your sense of the capabilities of the Iranian regime? Because this weekend I spoke with Reza Pahlavi, the former crown prince of Iran, who said, look, and you've said this in the past, I think, as well, General, the Iranian leadership is not, as strong as they let on. And most people know it. I mean, after all of these attacks on the Houthis, do you think the leadership there, the Khomeini, is getting the message that the U.S. has the capability to stop them?
He knows full well the U.S. has the capability with the Israelis to take down their nuclear enterprise. He is likely willing to face that as long as his regime survives. That's what this is all about. That's why he wants a nuclear weapon. It guarantees the preservation of his regime. That's where these guys are at.
Yeah.
But they are in the most weakened position they have been in 44 years. A lot of their elites and their middle class have been hurt seriously by sanctions. And they are fed up with this regime taking all of the money and spending it on proxy warfare, which is what they've been doing. So, but we've been looking for this regime to collapse by an overthrow and a revolution for years, and it hasn't happened. We can't put a bet on that somehow that's going to happen. What we have to control what we can control, and that is make certain that they don't get a nuclear weapon.
Yep, absolutely. Let me move on to China, sir, because China is suspending the export of critical minerals and magnets to the United States. As you know, these minerals are critical and central to automakers, aerospace manufacturers, military, semiconductor companies, military contractors. This morning, China also ordered its airline carriers to stop accepting deliveries from Boeing. This is all in response to President Trump's tariffs on China. What do you make of this? How serious is this? And is this a national security threat that we can overcome?
Well, it is a serious national security implication here because in our airplanes and our submarines, in all of our sophisticated weapon systems, in radar, sonars, there are magnets and rare minerals, and China owns 90% of the world's supply here. So it will have an impact. Now, our defense industry has some stockpile, and the Pentagon has some stockpile, but both of those are limited. I don't know how long because that's classified, but I would suspect months as opposed to years. So it eventually will have an impact on weapons that are being developed and future weapons. Certainly the force that's out there, it's not going to have any impact on them. But that's the reality of what we're facing. Yes, it does have a serious national security implication.
All right. Well, this is the way, they're going to push back the way they're going to push back, right, General? I mean, they're going to do whatever they can do to fight President Trump's tariffs.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're in phases here which will lead to some kind of negotiation because obviously we have tools we're using against China, and China has tools they're using against us.
Right.
What that seems to me is a pathway to some kind of negotiated settlement at some point. I think that's what's in the back of the president and his team's mind here as they look at this issue.
All right, we will leave it there. General, thanks very much for talking with me this morning and getting through that. I see that you have struggled with your voice. I hope you can get some water there. We appreciate your time.